Hello students, we have come to the end of the chapter inheritance and we will end our chapter with the topic interface. What is an interface? As you can see, it is written here, interface looks like a class but it is not a class. In what we can say to an interface? Interface is just, you can say it's a blueprint of the class, or it gives the design of a class. Based on that design or based on that blueprint, we create a class. An interface can have methods and variables just like the class, but the methods which we declare in interface are by default abstract methods. That is, the method has only the method signature without any method body. In last class, we read about abstract classes and abstract methods. So an interface will have abstract methods, and by default, it takes abstract methods only. The variables that we declare in an interface are by default public, static, and final. That is, we use constants inside interfaces. Okay. Now let us come to the definition of an interface. An interface defines a protocol of behavior. The aim of interfaces in Java is to dictate common behavior among objects from diverse classes. As I said, that you can consider an interface as a blueprint of a class. Now, what is the use of interface in Java? Why do we need to use interface? Now, if you all remember, in last class, I said that to achieve abstraction, we will be using abstract classes and interfaces, right? Now, abstract classes gives us partial abstraction. Why partial abstraction? Because inside abstract classes, we can have abstract methods and we can have concrete methods also. That is the methods with method body. But in interfaces, we will have only methods without method body. That is, we will have only abstract methods. For this reason, interfaces provides us full abstraction. Full abstraction means more security. So, interfaces are used for full abstraction. Since methods in interfaces do not have a body, they have to be implemented by the class before you can access them. As methods that are used inside interfaces are without method body. So when a class is using that interface, we will see how a class is using an interface in the later part of this chapter. So when a class is using an interface, the class needs to define the abstract method which is declared in the interface. The class that implements the interface must implement all methods of that interface. Also, Java programming language does not allow you to extend more than one class. If you all remember, when we were in the beginning of the chapter inheritance, there when we are learning about the different types of inheritance, we have read about multiple inheritance. And when we were reading about multiple inheritance, it was written there that Java does not support multiple inheritance. Multiple inheritance means a subclass, it cannot extend from more than one base class. Yes. What was multiple inheritance? If a subclass is extending from more than one base class, then it will be known as multiple inheritance. But Java does not support multiple inheritance. So how to achieve the feature of multiple inheritance or the functionality of multiple inheritance in Java? This multiple inheritance can be achieved with the help of interfaces. However, you can implement more than one interface in your class. Now, how to declare an interface? The interface is declared using the keyword interface. Just as we declare a class, what do we write? Class and then the class name. Now, for declaring an interface, we'll just replace that keyword class with the keyword interface. So what we'll write? We'll write interface and then interface name. And then the block of interface starts. Now inside this block you can have variables, you can have methods, but obviously those will be of methods will be of abstract type and the variables has to be of final type, public static final type. Now let us see an example of interface in Java. Let us see a program that how we can use an interface in our program. Now this is how a class can implement an interface. It has to provide the body of all the methods. As I said, when a class is implementing an interface, it has to define all the methods which are declared inside the interface. Okay, now there is a note for you all. Class implements interface, but an interface extends another interface. What is this? A class can implement an interface, but if there are two interfaces and if one interface needs to use the feature of another interface, then in that case the interface will extend another interface. Now let us see the program. I've taken an interface named as polygon. Now here I have declared two variables, length and breadth of static final int type, and the access specifier is public. The value of length variable is 10 and breadth is 5. Now there is a method named as void getArea. Now this getArea is of abstract type. As you all can see, the method is only declared, it is not defined, and it is ending with a semicolon. So this is of abstract type. Now one more thing, what I said that in interface by default the methods are going to be of abstract type and the variables are going to be of public static final type. So here if you are not mentioning it explicitly, public static final, if only you are writing int length and breadth, then by default it will take public static final. Okay, but to make you all understand, I have written the entire thing. So if you all are skipping this part, by default the compiler will take it as public static final. Okay, now next, the class will implement this interface polygon. So what you have to write, class rectangle implements is the keyword polygon. Polygon is the interface name. Now what was the method that was declared inside this polygon interface? The method name was void getArea. So we'll write here public void getArea and we are defining the method here. So what we have done, we have taken a print line and we are calculating the area of the rectangle and printing it. So the area of the rectangle is, as we know, it's length into breadth. And inside this class, I have written the main method, public static void main, and then I'm creating the object of the class and I'm calling the getArea method. So when we will execute this program in your BlueJ platform, you will get to see something like this. This is an interface polygon and this is the class. And you all can see a dotted arrow has been drawn here. This is showing that class rectangle is implementing the interface polygon. So when we will execute this class, we will get the output as the area of rectangle is 50 because we have taken length equals to 10 and breadth equals to 5. So it is calculating the area and it is giving the result as 50. So this is how we can implement an interface in a class. Next comes interface and inheritance. As we said, that to achieve multiple inheritance in Java, to achieve the functionality of multiple inheritance, we can use interface. So let us see. An interface cannot implement another interface. So what it can do, it can extend another interface. Example has been given here where we have used two interfaces named as interface 1 and interface 2. Now interface 2 extends interface 1. Okay, and we are using a class demo. That class demo will implement the interface 2 to provide the implementation of all the methods which are there inside the two interfaces, that is interface 1 and interface 2. So what class demo is going to do? Class demo is going to implement the methods which are there inside interface 1 and interface 2. Now, we have declared interface 1 with the keyword interface and then the name interface 1, and there is a method named as method 1 which is an abstract method. The second step, what we are doing, we are extending the interface. So interface 2 extends interface 1, and here we are having an abstract method as method 2. Now class demo is implementing interface 2. Now as it is implementing interface 2, it has to implement the method of interface 1 and interface 2, both of the interfaces. Okay. So class demo is implementing the method 1 which was there in interface 1. It is printing method 1, and method 2 is printing method 2. Now we have written the main method. We have created the object of class demo and we are calling method 2. Okay. So this is how we can extend one interface from another interface. Next one. Some key facts about interfaces, or some points that has to be remembered regarding interfaces. The first one is, we cannot instantiate an interface in Java. That means we cannot create an object of an interface. Why we cannot create an object of an interface? Because in interface, all the methods are of abstract type. So the methods without any method definition. So we cannot create objects of an interface. Interface provides full abstraction as none of its method bodies are defined. As I said, on the other hand, abstract classes provides partial abstraction because they can have both abstract and concrete methods. Next, implement keyword is used by classes to implement an interface. Fourth one, while providing implementation in class of any method of an interface, it needs to be mentioned as public. This is very important. When you are providing the implementation of any method of an interface inside a class, you have to mention that, or you have to give the access specifier as public. Next, class that implements an interface must implement all the methods of that interface, else the class should be declared abstract. When a normal class is implementing an interface, then the class has to define all the methods which were there inside the interface. And if a class is not doing so, okay, suppose if a class wants only to define one method of, suppose our interface is having two methods, okay, and the class wants to only define one method of that interface. Now in this case, what you have to do, you have to declare the class as abstract type, otherwise it will give you error. Interface has to be declared as public. all the interface methods are by default abstract and public. Variables declared in interface are public, static, and final by default. These things we have already studied. These are just the points which you need to remember. That's why the summary is given here. Next one. Interface variables must be initialized at the time of declaration. Otherwise, the compiler will throw an error. Whenever you are declaring the variable inside an interface, those variables must be initialized there only. Now, if you are not declaring any variables inside the interface, it's fine. Don't declare. But if you are declaring the variables, then you have to initialize it. Because by default, the variables which are used in interfaces are final, that is constant. So we need to declare their values. Next, the 10th one. Inside any implementation class, you cannot change the variables declared in interface because by default, they are public, static, and final. An interface can extend any interface but cannot implement it. Class implements interface and interface extends interface. Remember this one. A class implements interface, whereas an interface extends another interface. Next, a class can implement any number of interfaces. Now here comes the functionality of multiple inheritance. A class can implement any number of interfaces, but a class cannot extend any number of base classes. Next one. If there are two or more same methods in two interfaces and a class implements both the interfaces, then the implementation of the method is required only once. That is, if we take the interface A, this interface A is having a method named as AAA. And interface B is also having the same method named as AAA. Now, this class central is implementing the interfaces A and B. See how we are implementing two interfaces. The two interfaces are just separated by using comma. Interface A and interface B. Class central is implementing both the interfaces, multiple functionality of multiple inheritance. And what it will do? It will define the method AAA only once. Okay? Then, next one. A class cannot implement two interfaces that have methods with same name but different return type. If a class is having the methods with same name, or if two interfaces are having the methods with same name but their return type is different, then the class cannot implement that method. Next. Variable name conflicts can be resolved by interface name. Okay. Now this interface A is having a variable named as X. Interface B is also having a variable named as X. Now how to resolve the problem when this class hello is implementing both the interfaces? This can be resolved. How? We will just use the reference of the interfaces when we are using the variables. So if I write a dot x, that means it is referring to the variable x of interface A. If I write b dot x, that means I am referring to the variable of interface B. Okay. Okay. Now one more line is there, system.out.print x. Now here we have not given the reference of any of the interfaces, whether it belongs to interface A or interface B. Now this line will be giving your error, as the compiler will be confused that which X we should use, whether it belongs to interface A or it belongs to interface B. Next comes the difference between class and interface. What is the difference between a class and an interface? The first difference is we can create objects of class, that is, you can instantiate variables and create objects of class, whereas in interface you cannot create objects. A class can contain concrete methods, that is the methods with method definition, whereas an interface will contain only abstract methods, that is methods without any method definition. The access specifiers used with classes can be of private, public or protected type, but interface uses only public access specifier. So this was all about interfaces. Now with this, our chapter inheritance ends here. Okay. So next day we'll start something new. Thank you.